Hello, this video shows the chapters, so the chapters of this book, BraiTrix, trap, no? Okay, so, and it's a TaF-Format, TAF, which is tell a friend. So there are no cuts and there are no retakes. Yeah, it's like the principle, if I tell a friend something, there are no cuts. It's not that I say, oh, could you just not listen for a minute? Or could you, go out and come back again and I'll do it again. So now in the center is obviously the person, or center of when I wrote this book, like central to a human, let's say. And then first chapter is about nature. So where do I draw? So chapter 3 is nature. So nature is, trees and like animals, something like that. That's nature. And I think that when you describe yourself, you have to describe yourself together with nature. But now the fourth chapter is, so that's the third chapter. The fourth chapter is about the brain. And here we have different brains, but it is about for the brain, yeah? So that's the fourth chapter, that how do we think, how do we perceive things. Then the fifth chapter is about the truth. And the truth is kind of above, the hierarchy. So this is reptile brain, limbic system, and intellectual. And so the truth is like something transcendental. So truth, that's the fifth chapter. And then we have philosophy and physics. Now, how does this fit together? I think philosophy, so that is 6a, and physics, so Newton, Einstein, the electrical laws and so on. And I think philosophy and physics is how it so this is kind of the science. So it is this, it is like it is. So there is no interpretation, it's like it is, and we cannot discuss this away. And philosophy is kind of the same, because it's the search for wisdom and knowledge. Knowledge. Yeah. So they are very much together. So that's chapter 6, and then chapter 7 is about something that is very what I think is in between kind of nature and truth, and that is religion. So 7 is religion. And religion for me has different aspects. First, religion is for the guys that do not understand, because they can't, or they do not want to understand physics and philosophy. For them, there is religion. So they can always go into I believe, so that is the limbic system. If they can't grasp it with the intellect, they can grasp it with the limbic system. Now, religion has, however, as a side note, done very, very good in controlling humans. Yeah, that is what the Big Brother and what the law and so on now does, the internet, because religion allowed to control people, that they do what you wanted to do, like 100 years, 1,000 years, 5,000 years ago. If you explain it with the gods, then people will do what you want, what the leader wants. So religion was actually hijacked by leaders. Okay, so religion is very important. And now we come to kind of the base discipline, which is the thinking. And the thinking is, you have these 3 brains, and we think differently. So we perceive thinking as something else. And most people kind of are in the second one, in the limbic system. Yeah. So they say, what I mean, what I believe is true. But really true, in terms of truth, is just what the intellect, without any interference from his boss, the limbic system, and from his catastrophic kind of disturber, the reptile brain. So that is thinking. So I need to write this down. So thinking is the 8th chapter, thinking. Yeah, that's this part. And we all believe that thinking is different. It's 1, 2, or 3. And a combination of the 3. And now the thing is life. You know, what is life? And for me, life is, you know, associated with nature. So it's somewhere in here. So you have chapter 9, life. And life for me has this one rule. So one rule, and that is, if something, let's say, not intelligent like this brain here, but something can change, can alter due to some external event, which is light, heat, changing conditions. And this matter, which is involved, then is able to decide what to do. So upon some interference from outside, it can decide to go either step 1 or step 2. And if step 1 is the one that is more successful, then these matters, these things, these living things, these initial living things will move into direction 1. And if direction 1 means that those things multiply more than if they would go in direction 2, then these ones will win. And if you apply this for 1 billion years, you will have humanity. That is life. That is life. It doesn't have to end in a human being. It ends in something that is better than the day before, and better or different than the day before. And that is the rule of life. And if the conditions do not meet anymore, so if the changing cause like the sunlight or so stops, then life stops. And so this is life. And then a very important thing for us as humans now is culture, ethics, and society, which is something we had to put upon, and how can I put this now? We have found a way how we best, this what life does here on kind of the individual basis, we have discovered on like a society basis. So that is why it's society. So it's society. So that's chapter 10. Culture and ethics. Ethics. So this is chapter 10, because in order as a society to be successful, as life is successful, you need ethics, you need culture, you need religion, and so on. And that is covered in chapter 10. And then actually these it's only from 3 to 10, so this is actually only 8 chapters. So 8 chapters actually close the circle. And if you understand these 8 chapters and the content of these 8 chapters, everything's fine, and you have the model of the world in your brain. And then you won't have any surprises. You might learn new things, but that adds just to one of these chapters. And it's not that you kind of completely have to rethink everything and some chapter or some part of chapter is completely wrong. It might be a little bit different. It might have a little bit less influence maybe in the system. But once you have understood this, you actually have understood the system, and you can predict Well, prediction is always difficult in complex systems, but you can explain afterwards why it has been like that and try to predict things in the future. And then after the 10th chapter, we have a chapter that I like a lot, and that is the interesting questions. Yeah, and these interesting questions are something like free will, sixth sense, human perfection, perfect love, and something like that, and happiness, and why do we need economical growth. So I even go into kind of how society works, what is our death, and so on. And then we have chapter, so this is interesting questions, is 11, and then we have chapter 12, which is comments. So my comments on philosophical statements from the old Greeks. So they are like 2,000 years old. Yeah? So from the old Greeks, 2,000 years old. And then the 13th chapter is my comments on famous quotes. Now, famous quotes come from normal people in general. You know, they're like sayings that people just discovered. And in most cases, it's about nature, it's about life, it's about culture, ethics, society, and so on, religion. So, and comments on these quotes. And then I usually give like a percentage number, like this one is 90% because of this and this reason. And then the 14th chapter is actually a chapter I love a lot, which is a brainstorming. So that means brainstorming. So that means there is no end. So writing this book did not end what I was thinking about. So for example, the limits of rational thinking, and then kind of now the takeover of artificial intelligence. Or could the world be run by a computer program? So could our politicians and leaders be a computer program? And economy and the happiness of people. You know, these things, or logic and life, are they related? You know, this is, or designing an alternative nature. Yeah, so this is the brainstorming session and chapter, and that is really, really interesting. And that's it. You know, that's the book. There's 15, chapter 15, the conclusion, and 16 sums up the main statements, and 17 is just the where I got that, you know, where I studied, where I got the information from, which books, which websites, and so on I read. And that's it. So I'm really, really happy. If you should have some comments on this. And if not, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you during my next videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.